Did the National Football League actually listen to yours truly and decide to at least explore the idea of placing a regular season game down under? Okay, let's not kid ourselves here. There's no way I had any influence on this decision whatsoever. I mean, I could try to take a victory lap, but it would be complete and utter nonsense. These discussions, these talks have probably been well underway long before I ever put out that video. However, the truth of the matter here, the reality is hey, Australia is closer than ever to getting an NFL regular season game, and that is exciting. Before we get ahead of ourselves, there are still I's to dot, T's to cross. This deal is a long ways away from getting over the line. In fact, the NFL is still trying to put out classic negotiating tactic statements like, well, there are lots of other interested parties in hosting these games. Yeah, sure, whatever you say, NFL. Let's be honest here. With England, Germany, Spain, and Brazil all having NFL regular season games, there aren't a lot of ready-made markets for the league to place another game in, at least not ones that would require scaling up for language operations, scaling up marketing operations. I mean, Australia knows the sport. There's a strong, passionate fan base for American football down there. It is going to be the path of least resistance if the league as a whole wants to expand into not just Australia, but Asia Pacific. All that being said, I was caught off guard by the floated location for this game, the Melbourne Cricket Ground in Melbourne. It was not where I would have assumed this game would be played because, well, it's an oval. Putting a square pitch into the center of the Melbourne Cricket Ground leaves a lot of unused space that is not going to look particularly nice, especially to American audiences. The thing about Wembley, Twickenham, Tottenham Stadium, the Bernabeu, just everywhere they've played these international series games is that the pitch, the stadium, it's all looked pretty normal. And putting an NFL game at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, it is not going to look normal at all. We know this for a fact because State of Origin has also been held occasionally at the MCG, and quite frankly, it doesn't look all that great, and I think the atmosphere loses something because just the fans are so far away from the sidelines. It's not the end of the world by any means, and it's probably a great thing if you really love digitally superimposed ads on those empty spaces, but I think American fans watching on TV are going to absolutely loathe an NFL game being played at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. It also kind of flies in the face of what sports have been trying to do, and that is play their games at grounds that best accentuate the sport. Soccer, for all it's worth, has tried to eliminate playing at stadiums that have a running track. Now, it doesn't always work. There's still been some contests played in those venues with a running track, but the priority has been non-running track stadiums. I would have serious concerns that the American fans would reject this game in Melbourne. I can already see Twitter lining up with comments and snide remarks. That's just how we work in America. I don't know why we do it, but it's just what it would be. You would just have all of these people complaining, and it may harm Australia's future chances at ever landing another regular season game. If the American fans reject it and say it looks bad, it doesn't look like the NFL, that's not a good thing. Now, I do know the reason why the NFL is zeroing in on Melbourne and Victoria. I'm not going to pretend like I don't know the score, I don't know the name of the game here, and the name of the game here is funding. The government of Australia, the state of Victoria, Melbourne, they're all paying up to potentially host a National Football League game. This, by the way, is pretty common that Australia does very often to get all kinds of marquee sporting events. They did it with those college football games in the 2010s. They did it in Perth to get the WWE there. This is a very important tool Australia has to lure these events to come down under and look at overcoming the logistical challenges, the time challenges, all of that stuff. The state governments, the city governments, even the national government all try to chip in to get these events to come down under as a way to boost tourism, increase ticket sales, all of that stuff. From the NFL standpoint, there's just the capacity of Melbourne Cricket Ground, which overshadows any other stadium in the country. Of course, that is possible because it is an oval. It's designed for cricket, and that is what just, I feel like there's a disconnect here between what the NFL is seeing and maybe the actual practicality of playing there. Playing at this 100,000 plus seat stadium may appeal to the NFL, who sees it as a way to highlight an attendance record being broken. I mean, they would find different ways to market the crap out of this. However, you do have the 80,000 seat Accor Stadium over there in Sydney that seems just tailor-made for an NFL game. It would be one thing if I was saying, NFL, don't play the game at Melbourne Cricket Ground. It's circular. It doesn't make sense. You need to play that game at Leichhardt Oval. That would be crazy, but eschewing 20,000 people in capacity to play in a stadium that better suits your sport, I just think that makes more sense here, I suppose. But again, this is a money play. This all comes down to who is giving the NFL what to bring a regular season game there. And it appears that Victoria has identified this event as the way to go. It's not necessarily about where the NFL wants to play. It's more about who's going to pay it the most to play a game in Australia. And if that's Victoria, it appears on the surface that they are willing to eschew any concerns about the look or the visuals of it in order to cash that check. That's the NFL modus operandi. I'll also say this, having a game in Australia is better than having no game in Australia. If it's the Melbourne Cricket Ground or nothing, you always choose the Melbourne Cricket Ground. You always choose the option which something happens here. So even though it's not my preferred choice, and I don't think it'd be the preferred choice for many folks out there, I would take that over nothing because I think it is extremely important for Australia, a country that low-key loves its NFL, and really just the entire region, Australia, New Zealand. It's going to sort of bring in fans from around the Asia Pacific to an NFL game that they may not have a chance to see otherwise. So absolutely, don't reject it because it's not at the most ideal ground. I just don't know how this works out with the MCG, and I think long term there have to be these concerns about how are you framing this to those fans in America who are going to be wondering why the hell is everyone so far away from the action. Beyond that, the other thing about the details leaking of a potential NFL game in Australia was the time frame, which was far later in the year than I would have expected it to come, where they're talking about October, November, potentially December. I don't know how they're going to work that out logistically with bye weeks. This could also be part of something grander that the NFL is doing. If they are going to try to force through 18 games and 2 bye weeks, maybe this is just one aspect of larger plans we don't know about just yet. That's something else interesting to consider here. It's also a bit of a shame to not be doing this during a busier time in the Australia sporting calendar for those fans coming from overseas wanting to make a trip out of it. It seems like they're going to host this game after the NRL and AFL seasons are concluded. Big Bash won't be starting up yet. There's not going to be a heck of a lot happening in Australia sports-wise for other people to see and to potentially sell those. But now I know that's not the concern of the NFL. That's probably not the concern of the Victorian government. However, I think as travelers, as someone who loves taking sports trips, I would like to be able to get a little more bang for my buck than just seeing one NFL game and maybe Sheffield Shield. I mean, October, November, December, I guess December has some cricket going on, but yeah, those October, November months aren't exactly boon periods for the big time sports in Australia. Then again, I'm just nitpicking here. You know what? Screw it. I'm down. MCG, Australia, NFL, sign me up. And if you're an Aussie, I think this is something to look forward to. This looks far closer now, far more of a realistic chance of happening than it did, say, a few months back. And if you're an American or even an expat somewhere, I highly recommend you give this a shot because I think the atmosphere for an NFL game down under is going to kick ass. Look, if you think those England games with the random smattering of jerseys and the fans are entertaining and interesting and engaging and fun to watch, I think it's going to be ratcheted up a notch down under, because let me tell you, those people, they know the NFL. I play fantasy football with Aussies and Kiwis. Like, these are folks that are all in on the NFL, and they're going to do this thing right. Thank you for watching this video. To see my original video on why Australia is the perfect place for an NFL regular season game, video upper right hand corner of your screen is where you can check it out. And to hear my thoughts on the success of the NRL venturing stateside, video lower right hand corner of your screen is the place to go. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is the Touchback Australia. I hope to see you for an NFL game sometime in the near future. And as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.